How's it going, guys? Today I just want to touch on a few things that are on my mind regarding Battlefield and, well, a potential free-to-play model in the gaming industry. Now, I just want to start off and say I'm a big Battlefield fan, and I'm especially hyped for Battlefield 6, specifically. I've been playing Battlefield for years and years, so this is not a dig, this is not me trying to throw dirt or anything towards Battlefield or anyone who enjoys playing Battlefield or anything like that, because the reason I have these concerns really is because I'm such a big fan of it. And what I want to touch on today is just my general concerns over what potentially Battlefield 6 could end up being, and now obviously a couple of free-to-play whisperings in the gaming industry that are starting to take some form in more mainstream media at this point, and I think it kind of needs to be addressed. So a little bit more of a casual chat today, not anything that I usually do, but I think it's important to put my thoughts out there and see what you guys think as well. So the first thing I want to touch on is Battlefield 6 overhyped, or could it be, potentially? I'm not saying it is, because quite frankly it's pretty standard at this point, but quite frequently big AAA games can be overhyped and it can lead to disappointment. So I feel the first thing I want to say is we need to temper our expectations on this, and EA and DICE need to either deliver, and I mean they've got big shoes to fill with the amount of hype that they're stirring up at the moment and what they're kind of promising, and either they need to deliver on that, and I fully at this moment in time believe that they can, but at the end of the day it is EA, so anything could happen, but I just don't want it to end up being a Battlefield 5 scenario. I know it's a great game now, and it is kind of looked a bit more fondly on now, but when it's first released it was a disappointment. It was. I mean, they hyped it up so much. They added all these features, and it just kind of fell flat. I mean, straight from the launch trailer, everyone's like, not sure about this. I mean, they already made so many changes from that launch trailer. I mean, all you have to do is go back and watch it, and then look at the game that we have today and how it's developed over the course of the 2 years that it's been out. 3 years? I don't know. It's been out for years now, and it's changed completely. And they had to do that to keep the player base in check and obviously keep going back. Now, I don't want that to happen with Battlefield 6 because, you know, this is their potential big... I don't want to say big break because they don't need a big break. It's EA, for crying out loud. But they're competing with the next Call of Duty, which is probably going to be World War II. And if Battlefield 6 can be modern, then... which is, you know, kind of rumored to be, and I hope it is, because if it's not, then, geez... yeah, it's already going to make a lot of people angry, but from what I've heard, it's going to be modern, and if that's the case, then they've got a lot of potential here to steal a lot of the first-person shooter market and really make this game successful. And I'm not too bothered about how successful it is, you know, how much money you make. I don't care about that. I just want it to be good. I just want it to be fun. And it needs to deliver on that. And considering they are hyping up so much, they need to pull through. I mean, they're using so many buzzwords, and one of the phrases they use always gets under my skin a little bit. It's the one where they said it's a love letter to the fans. It's like, I've heard that so often in game development. And every single time someone's mentioned that phrase or said those words, it's always been tied to a disappointing game. And I don't know whether it's just me linking the two. It most likely is, but I do have examples of that happening in my head, of developers going, oh, this is going to be a love letter to all the fans and the series of this game, whatever it might be, and it just turns out to be a load of rubbish, quite frankly, to put it lightly. Now, the next thing I'm kind of concerned about is that it is EA, and it kind of touches on my previous point that we do need to temper our expectations a little bit. I mean, EA are just there to make money. We all know that. We're all well aware of that, and I know DICE is, you know, we can't trust them with the IP of Battlefield, but EA is at the head of this. So if EA tells them to do something or put something in the game, they're going to do it. They have to. With the recent leaks and news that's been pouring out over the FIFA Ultimate Team scandal, I don't know whether you've heard about that, but there's some documents that are leaked over a finance report or something like that. I don't know if you phrase it. I can't remember the phrasing. Director's call or something like that. I think it's a director's call. Something to do with stocks and important people getting together in a meeting room. Boring stuff, talking about how, you know, the game's going to develop. And this is FIFA we're talking about right now. But during that meeting, someone leaked some documents where basically they were just blatantly admitting that, yeah, every other part of the game that doesn't lead people to spending money on loot boxes and Ultimate Team and FIFA is trying to push them to play that mode. Career mode? Nah. doesn't make money. So we're going to try and push you to spend loads of money on loot boxes and packs and whatnot in Ultimate Team. And it basically just admits that. And if that goes into any more of EA's IPs and it starts filtering into Battlefield, I mean, God knows what it's going to turn out to be. And I'm not massively fearful of this at the moment because I'm not 100% sure what they could do and kind of get away with, because I feel like the Battlefield community would call them out on it if they did ever try and implement something similar to that. But they're a lot smarter than me, and I feel like they would potentially just sneak something in there and then over the course of time condition us to accept that kind of model slowly but surely. And that's one of my fears. I mean, we don't know what's going to be in this Battlefield, how they're going to make money, how they're going to monetize it. Is it just going to be skins like Battlefield 5? I mean, that kind of sucked a little bit towards the end of its life cycle. New players getting in, when the battle pass finished, the season's finished, the only way they could get the skins and stuff was by paying like £20, $20, whatever it might be, to get these skins. And it kind of sucked, I'm not gonna lie. And yeah, it's not gonna give you an advantage or anything, but yeah, I don't know. I've got mixed feelings about that, and it's not as bad as what it could be, that's for sure, but it doesn't mean it's good. It doesn't mean we have to live with it. And hopefully it doesn't get any worse with the next iteration of Battlefield, and that's one of my fears there. And on top of that, it's probably going to be a live service model like Battlefield 5 was, where we're probably going to get half a game to begin with. Like, let's face it, I mean, Battlefield 5 released with the lowest map count and the lowest weapon count. I know that's kind of era appropriate as well and stuff like that, but it did kind of feel like half a game. And it wasn't polished either as well. There's numerous bugs and stuff. I think people forget about this, about the launch of Battlefield games. Like, even Battlefield 4 was terrible. It was horrendous. I know we had Battlefield 1 in between those, and that was actually pretty good. But Battlefield 5 had a lot of issues on launch, and it was down to that live service model that they tried to implement. It's like, oh, well, we can get away with releasing this because, the fans know that we're just going to keep adding stuff over the course of months and then years. And when a live service model is done well, I'm all for it. I get it, it's getting more and more demanding to develop games, costs a lot more money, a lot more man hours and crunch time, and etc, etc, etc. So if you can hold some stuff back and add it in later, I understand that from a business point of view, and I'm not scared of it, of want of a better phrase, I guess. But if it's done poorly, it can really, it's a tightrope. It's a tightrope to go down. If it's done poorly, it can blow up in your face, and that's what I'm scared of, because again, it's EA. I don't know how many times I can say it, but it's EA, so who knows what they're going to do and how they're going to approach it. And if they're going to go down that road, they need to really think about how they're handling it and what they're releasing on day one, and whether it's actually going to work. And what I'm more scared of is potentially the lack of crossplay, and that's due to the fact that there's going to be multiple generations involved here. So not only is it PC and console, or Xbox and PlayStation, it's also going to be, PlayStation 5, Xbox Series, PC, and then Xbox One and PlayStation 4 consoles as well. And they're all going to have different specs. There's rumors, I don't know whether this is confirmed or not, actually. I'm not 100% sure, so don't quote me on that. But there's rumors that the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One version of the games aren't going to be the full fat experience. It's not going to be cut down too much, but apparently, it's only going to be... There's rumors that the PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series and PC, etc., are going to have 128 players on a map, and there's going to be more flags, and it's going to be a bigger area to play in with more vehicles, etc. Whereas on the base consoles, or last gen, if you want to call them that, it's only going to be 64 players aside, and the map's going to be slightly smaller and stuff like that. And there is evidence to back that up, and I lived through this with Battlefield 4. Because Battlefield 4 initially released on 360 and Xbox, or PlayStation 3 and PlayStation 4. And the PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360 version of that game was fine, I guess. I mean, it wasn't, because on release the whole game was broken anyway, but as a whole, it was a bit meh, to say the least. If you compared that to any PC gameplay or any Xbox One gameplay, there was half the player count on each maps, there was 1 or 2 flags missing on each map, and it just didn't feel like the whole game. Now, in this modern day where we're kind of expecting the crossplay community to grow and to be more accessible, I don't know how they're going to do that with this kind of divide. If that's true, if that's going to happen, if they are going to cut the player counts down and they're going to cut the maps down on those consoles. And trust me, I know it makes sense. It does 100% make sense, because you'd rather have a game that works, and you don't want to, punish the next gen players with a game that's not next gen, quotations, because they haven't innovated enough or whatever it might be. But you're always going to be limited by the hardware, and I'm not saying you should just completely separate them. Maybe it's for the best. Maybe there will be crossplay between PlayStation 5 and PC and Xbox Series and PC, but then it kind of leads the majority of the player base, which is, you know, most people still just have those base consoles out in the dark, out in the cold, you know? So I just don't know how that's going to work. And on top of that, kind of leaning into the whole launch worries as well when it comes to the launch of this game. There's only been one previous Battlefield, I think, that's launched on multiple generations, and it was the worst launch any Battlefield game has ever had, and that's Battlefield 4. Now, if you remember it, I don't have to say any more. I really don't. I'm not going to rant on it too much because, you know, I'm getting bored of my own voice at this point, but it was horrendous. It was buggy, glitchy, server issues, everything you could imagine, and it's kind of become a common theme these days anyway, which is kind of weird to say and weird to think back on, because you kind of expect it with the launch of a new update on Warzone or Apex, whatever it might be. These issues are prevalent regardless. But when it's the launch of a AAA game brand new, they kind of died down a little bit. But back then it didn't happen so often, and it would just happened in such a fashion that, yeah, it almost killed the game. It genuinely almost killed the game because it took them so long to fix it. It took them months to actually get it stable and running properly on these consoles. And I think that it's because, you know, part of the reason that happened is because they tried to stretch themselves too thin and release it on the previous generation of consoles as well. And I just, you know, scared of that happening again, because this is the game we're all hyped for. We don't want it to be ruined like that. Now, this isn't so much of a worry as I kind of think it's a bit of a positive, but some people might think this is a negative, so I want to mention it anyway, is that there's a rumor that there's going to be a lack of single player in Battlefield 6. It's not confirmed, but in my head, it would kind of make sense. Battlefield campaigns have been really hit and miss. Now, the last really good one, and I mean really good, was the Bad Company games. And Battlefield 6 is not Bad Company. It's Battlefield 6. It's not Bad Company 3, is it? So it's not going to be a continuation of that. And then the last half decent one was Battlefield 3. Battlefield 3 campaign was really good. I really liked it. Battlefield 4 was meh, take it or leave it, meh. And, you know, Battlefield 1 with the war story, it's a really good concept, but it's not something that you'd you remember, really. It was beautiful and it was really well written. And then Battlefield 5 was just a really, really bad version of the same thing. It was just boring. I think that's the only Battlefield campaign I haven't finished that I've played. So there's that. So I think if they turn around and went, listen, guys, we're not going to include a campaign in this. You know, we all know that Battlefield is multiplayer. The campaign, people play it for a few hours and just leave it, which is probably the truth, right? And so they're going to decide to scrap it for this year. I would be on board with that if it means that they get their act together, and the launch is good and the content is good on day one, then yeah, by all means. But with that in the air, and I know there's a lot of people that really like the campaign for Battlefield and just want that single player experience, you know, has a bit of training or just a little, you know, just a side experience on Battlefield. There's a lot of advocates for the campaign, so I understand people's concerns, but I think personally it's a good idea. But I don't know, what do you guys think? Let me know in the comments down below. I'd be interested to hear what you think on that point specifically, because it is fairly divisive. I think that's the most divisive thing that's come out of the rumors for Battlefield 6 so far. So you let me know what you think. I'm all right with it, but I totally understand if you're quite protective of your single player experiences, because where does it end? You know, they take it out of Battlefield, or they take it out of Call of Duty. You know, where are they going to stop with that? I mean, they already took out one Call of Duty, right? Anyway, getting off topic. So moving on really quickly is the mobile game that's been rumored as well. In fact, it's been confirmed. They're making a Battlefield mobile game now. It's not necessarily a bad thing on the surface, because it doesn't affect you. If you don't play mobile games, it doesn't affect you on the surface. But the reason they're doing that is for one reason only, and it's the same reason as before. It's money. Now, I think it was something like Call of Duty Mobile is raking in like 7 million a day or something like that. Ridiculous worldwide, or is either Call of Duty Mobile or Fortnite is actually gaining $7 million a day, which is insane. So obviously EA want a bit of that pie. Of course they do. Why wouldn't they? It's EA. And why wouldn't anyone? It's a lot of money. But the point I'm making is that initially it might not affect us. Initially it might not affect you. Initially it might not affect me. But at some point, they're going to see that money-making. They potentially see that money-making idea and start thinking, well, how can we start implementing that into our base game? Now, that's a worrying thought, because it's a test experience almost. It's kind of like a beta version for ideas going forward for their main model that they use currently for Battlefield games. So they start getting some bad ideas and putting them in the games, then it is going to affect us. It's going to affect everyone. And I don't want that. There's something that... I don't want a free-to-play Battlefield game on PC, which they already do, but that died immediately. But on consoles, like a mainline Battlefield game, which is free-to-play, and... oh, no, go away. I don't want that. Just full of loot boxes and time extensions and oh, Jesus, just thinking about it. No, please, God. Ugh. And that's why I'm scared of the mobile game. It might be good. If it's good and they just, leave it away from the mainline game, they're fine. But you can already see it with, Warzone and some Call of Duty aspects. They're becoming one and the same. And it's not the best thing to see. A beloved franchise like Battlefield is going down that same road. Now, finally, and this is the last topic I want to touch on, it's the free-to-play model that's been going around recently in the news, and it's one publisher that's specifically spearheading this, and that's Ubisoft. Ubisoft is reportedly making a free-to-play Division title. Now, again, it's kind of like the mobile game. On the surface, it might not be too bad. It's an idea that could potentially be fun, and it's gonna be more accessible by more people, and that's always a good thing. The more players, the more people in general that can play games, the better, is why I say. Exclusivity and paywalls and stuff like that, fine. Getting more players and faces in front of screens is always a good thing if that's what they want to do. But at the end of the day, if it starts catching on with something more mainstream, every company starts making these free-to-play games, and it starts overtaking just the normal model. And I'm not scared of change. It's not like that. It's just, if it's done well, I'll welcome it. If it's done well and it's a good thing for the game industry, then fine. And it's not even about the industry itself. It's about our enjoyment as fans of the series and our enjoyment of games in general. If it's implemented well, fair. I'll take it. Why not? But history suggests that free-to-play games are very hit and miss and very predatory when it comes to, trying to get money from you. And Ubisoft, well, yeah, we don't have to say too much about them. I don't want to drag this video on any longer than it is. But if that is successful, if the free-to-play Division it ends up being a success, then for a fact every other publisher is going to look at that and be like, yeah, we should do that. We should do a live service free-to-play game just like that. Just like Warzone's already kind of done with Battle Royale. Like Apex and EA have already got to slice that pie. But if it's actually mainline games with a story and etc. kind of like, Division is a multiplayer game, of course, but it's that single-player aspect, mission-based aspect. It's not just, it's not Fortnite, it's not Battle Royale is what I'm trying to say. So if it turns out that more games of that note start just going free-to-play so they can squeeze more money out of you, just, more little and often than other than £60, $70, whatever it might be up front, then it could spell trouble, potentially. But yeah, before I bore you all to death, if you've even made it this far, then thank you very much. Just want to say that. I really, really appreciate it. If you're new around here, don't forget to subscribe. And if you liked what my ramblings, if you did, then feel free to hit the like button. I'd really, really appreciate it. Just my thoughts. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. And until next time, guys, cheers.